the Nobody's Famous podcast. Okay, and we're 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, and we are back on the Nobody's Famous podcast. I'm back with a very, very special guest today. She is a singer-songwriter. She's been practicing music at a very, very young age. She plays football. She does poetry. She paints as well. So many different things. My guest is Sarah Chafei. Thank you so much for being with us on the show. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today.
It's an absolute pleasure. I want to get right into it, Sarah. There's a lot of different things that it seems that you've attempted in your life, which is amazing. And like here on the show, we always want to show both sides, the success and the failures, and that also try to let people don't worry about the fact that you'll fail in life. I mean, there's a
Yes,
lot of things that only success comes through a lot of failures. What do you think about that?
definitely, definitely. Hello. Okay, some people they do climb the ladder of success extremely fast, but that doesn't mean that they haven't had failures. And some people just takes a while for them to reach the top, but nevertheless, there's always failures in order to reach success. And I've been there myself. We all have, and even if let's say a person magically does reach success without failure, will they feel the true feeling or emotion of success? Like, will they be able to experience it?
Yeah, I think that comes a lot with this thing that I actually wanted to talk about on one of the shows is imposter syndrome. People actually do, yeah,
Yeah,
they do
I
kind
felt
of.
that.
But what,
I
but,
felt
but,
that.
but why did you feel that?
Well, let's start with, let's say, two scenarios, which is the pebble and the performances in singing. So when I first started performing, singing, I was very nervous and I felt imposter syndrome for the first couple performances because I was like, I'm not a performer, I'm not a professional. What am I doing? But then I reminded myself, in order to reach professionalism, that level of being a professional, I have to be a beginner for the first couple of times. No one starts a professional. So that sort of uh, helped the feeling of imposter syndrome die down. When it came to the Pebble business, I first started it and I was like, I'm not a company. I'm not a business owner. What am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing. But then I also reminded myself that businesses also start from square one. It's the look, the packaging, the professionalism, your mannerisms with the customer, the way it all looks. It's what makes it a business that's professional. You're being down to earth and genuine with customers. That's what makes it a business company or whatever you want to call it. So you have to start somewhere. So that helped me erase the imposter syndrome feeling. So,
I love the way you explained it. What's funny to me is I'm only like this is the first year I learned about this term. I didn't know what imposter syndrome was. Like a friend told me about it. Did you realize like that that's what it was? Because for me, when we started, let's say, I'll take the show as an example. When we started doing the show, there were some things that I didn't know, but the way I approached it was I'm just still uneducated about things. I didn't feel that I'm an imposter. I just felt like I felt like maybe I did feel that way, but I didn't know what it was. Like I didn't know
mhm.
such a thing existed. But did you know what it was?
I didn't. I only recently, like around this beginning of the year or end of last year, learned the term imposter. Sorry, and I didn't know what that was called imposter till recently, but I did feel like a fraud. And I was like, Sarah, you're not a fraud. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not lying to anyone. You're not cheating. You're not doing anything to be a fraud. It's not like you're painting some Mona Lisa and like calling it the original. But it did feel like I was pretending to be something that I wasn't. But at the same time, like I said, I reminded myself that you're not born a professional. You're not born multi-million dollar company overnight. It's so there's no reason to be feeling that way. It's because of I believe that people sometimes feel this way because of how society and social media invalidates and invalidates people. Like if people modeling, how many people model? Men and women, freelance, not necessarily signed to a contract. But a lot of people would be like in Arabic saying شو عاملة حالك model يعني إنه أخذت كم صورة with a professional camera, and that invalidation applies to a lot of things. Oh, you're a football player, basketball player. بالمدرسة إنه مش إنه أنت professional أو شيء. So this constant invalidation خصوصي in the Arab society can lead to people feeling this when they want to start a new project, a new hobby. So it's all about just reminding yourself that everyone starts from square one. You know, it's okay. You're learning to reach that point. You know, it's you're not being a fraud. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, thank you
yeah.
for shedding some light on that. You opened up a lot of topics, and I don't know where to begin.
Sorry.
No, which is no, it's awesome. I think you really did, and I want to take it step by step. But just to touch on something that you said, it's the voice in your head. Funny enough, it's the voice in your head, but the same voice can also tell you or remind yourself that it's okay. But we tend to always listen to uh, the negative voice and the voices
Yes.
outside. And I really like that you touched on social media as a point because maybe somebody might not react to a photo that you posted, let's say taking the model example. Somebody might not react to that photo, but then they see you later, they're like, oh, so you're a model now. Okay, well, tell me, you know um, why don't you just tell me what's your issue with it? Why can't I do that? Maybe I am becoming a model.
Yeah.
What's your issue with that? And I'm really glad that you touched on that. And speaking about social media, it actually brings me to my second question. I want to go back to all these things that you mentioned,
أكيد.
but my second question to you here is, actually I want to put some context to how we met, which is really funny. I was I was doing some research for my work about the Saudi music scene, okay? And I was doing a lot of research on different artists, all that kind of stuff, and then your name came up. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
How? I wanted to ask.
I don't know. It was just through research. I mean, I can't remember exactly where, but your name came up. And what's so funny to me is that was it for me. Like that's part of the research. I had some other artists in my presentation, all that stuff. I was just doing some research, and then you found our account. I mean, I don't know how, but you found it.
Yes, I remember. The BTXB Big Half.
Oh yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then you,
Yeah.
you found the account. I was like, I know who she is. Like I know her. I know she is. So it was just the way that it kind of happened was like super random
Coincidental.
and
Very.
yeah, very coincidental. And this is where my second question comes from is, when I checked I was checking your Instagram account. I noticed that you had, I don't know, maybe you archived, deleted everything, and you started from scratch, something like
Yes.
that. And my question is, why did you revamp, or let's say do a refresher to your Instagram account? Like, was there a moment in time? Was it imposter syndrome? What was the reason for you to do that?
Um, well, for starters, it reached a point where I felt like I needed to archive, not delete, but simply archive previous posts on my Instagram to start over. Now, it wasn't imposter syndrome, sorry. It was more of I've had my Instagram for a while now, since I was around, I think, 15, 16, maybe more actually, around since the beginning of Instagram. And I've always had all my posts since, all back in time till now. But I felt that in order to be true to who I really am currently, I mustn't linger and hold on to who I was in the past. I was a very hippie boho person. I still am, the shirt and stuff. Like I still am. I have a love for rings, and I had at one point braids in my hair, piercings everywhere. It's just not who I am right now. It was a phase I was going through, experimenting. Red hair, blonde hair, blue highlights. So I just felt that it's not a reflection of who I am currently. Now, I know your past doesn't define you, but I do not feel the need for people in my present to know anything about my past that's unnecessary, that won't even help them with information. I'm proud of who I used to be. It's not like I'm ashamed, But I feel like I reached a new point and chapter in my life, and I want my Instagram, because it's one of the main platforms I use, the only actual platform I use, to be an actual mirror reflection of who I am. You know, when I say mirror reflection, I say mirror in specific because social media does not necessarily show who a person is, but for me, it does. I am an open book with limits, of course, on social media, and I want it to be an exact reflection of who I am. Like, oh, that's so Sarah, that's so me, and yeah, I decided in order to do that, I decided to start over. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a very brave decision that you took. I mean, it's very conscious decision as well, and I think I could, based on what you said, I can agree and I can disagree on so many things in what you said. Agree that definitely making that type of decision is great, and I think people could practice it and say to themselves, like, who knew, that you can have a second chance at defining who you are, right? And I think what you
Yes,
did is an example for that. Like, people think that you can't. People think that you're defined by this is not just Instagram, by the way. I'm talking
yeah,
about in
from the start,
general.
from who you are,
Yeah,
خلاص, this is who you are.
yeah, I just think that this is where I agree with you. I think that giving having that ability to just start from the beginning, take things day by day, or even like forget social media, but every day is a new chance to make things
Of course,
better, and we have that privilege. Where I do disagree a little bit with you is just the fact that not that you are ashamed of your past, but people might think, oh, why did she do that, or why did she, and or people might
mm,
think or I mean, at least for me, where I disagree is the part that um, of course, you put something out there, it's out there. But again, like, for me, for
أكيد.
example, I have archived some posts, I've done so and so. So I think what's interesting is even going through old photos or going through stuff that you've done, whether it's in your mind or remembering things with friends. You go like, oh, damn, I did that mistake, and you go like, well, it happened, at least because of that, I've learned
أكيد.
something, so this is, I think it's a great, it's a great concept overall that you've done. And I think people can navigate it many different ways. So
أكيد.
obviously it's great. um
He, it's not more, it's not about there were of course mistakes, يعني إنه the blue hair was a big mistake, but it goes deeper than the superficial uh, first layer of photos that I want to archive. You know, my captions usually tend to be very long, and people who followed me for a long time know that I've started over, not necessarily my Instagram feed, but I've started over and refurbished who I am as a person over 4 times. And each within the span of like 2 3 years, I keep, and I do publicly announce this on my Instagram or back in the day Facebook, because um, it does help with the process, and it does show other people that, hey, you can do this too. If I want to look like this today and have a viewpoints and personal ethics and morals or things that I stand with and by and for today, but tomorrow I learn something new, and I educate myself and I'm educated by those around me and I'm influenced positively, I'm allowed to change who I was or what I thought about yesterday. You're allowed to be educated and be like, oh, I made a mistake. I educated myself. I'm now better, So, and a lot of people, they're afraid or they don't think they're allowed to do that. So yeah.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think it's very conscious of you to make those decisions, especially now that you mentioned you do them actually every 2 or 3 years. Just, I think, instead of
Yeah, not on
people
purpose,
maybe,
but yeah.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
people, they go through life, and then they look back at photos, they're like, oh, I was a very different person back then. But you're actually putting inflection points, or let's say checkpoints in your life, to say, this is where I made the
Yeah.
change. This is where I made the change. I think
Yes.
it's very, very, it has a very nice self realization about that. And staying
Thank
on
you.
your, it's great. Staying on your Instagram, there's two quotes I want to ask you about.
Mm.
So in your bio, you wrote, what suffering is behind your anger?
And your anger,
Yeah,
Sophocles.
and so my first question is obviously on that is what do you mean by that? And then I have another quote, but I'll let you answer this one first.
Okay. This one, uh, Sophocles is something I always had on my bucket list. I have a huge bucket list of books to read, but I do like skimming through quotes of the books that I plan to read without any spoilers, of course. And this quote I came across really caught my eye. I was like, oh, this is from the bucket list of the book I wanted to read. And it really spoke to me because, as someone who has dealt with a lot of angry people in their life, in my surroundings, um, and as someone who at one point started becoming an angry person, um, it all goes back to suffering, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. What suffering is behind your anger? What lies beneath the mask of anger that you put, you put a mask in front of your face, and you write a label on it called anger. Anger. What? But anger derives or stems from something much deeper than that, a wound. Like when you bash your elbow or leg or foot into something, you scream in pain, but you get angry. So if you break the table, you'll kick it, you get angry. So that root, that stem, it roots, and the roots go deep down into not one issue, or not issue. I don't like the word issue. One reason, one trigger. Not necessarily one. It goes into many. It branches out. It's one root that just branches out into many things, and yeah, it just spoke to me. So it's just a question that I put on my bio because it's really stuck to me. Like, yeah, that's so true. What anger, like what suffering lies behind your anger. So
That's a great explanation. I think I for one also have suffered from being angry as well, and I think you relating it back to, I mean, the example you gave, I think is perfect. That you, for whatever reason, let's say you bump your knee on the side of the table or something like that, the pain is what will make you angry, or you're like, how
yeah,
stupid of me to do something like that. And I think it's
yeah. So
very
what in
important.
your life? What around you is making you suffer that leads you to being angry? Like,
Yeah, I think you
just a
pose a
nice question to
very,
ask yourself.
yeah, definitely. I think this is a very very important question that you ask, and that will probably be the path to help a lot of people to kind of ask that question, realize that are you manifesting this anger because there's something that's bothering you and you're not really discussing it, or like I'm the type of person that I bottle up like a lot, and I just over the days pass by, and then one day I'll have a bad day, and it's all of that stuff happening at the same
No.
time. So I think it's great to ask yourself that question, maybe even every day or every once in a while, to
Yes,
try to
very.
remove, at least in the case for me, remove the bottling up of all these different suffering emotions, and then just getting them out.
There's
um
something I won't speak too much about, but I'll say it really briefly. There's something I really urge anyone to do, which is to ask themselves this question and write it down. Be on your phone, laptop, or pen and paper. I'm old school. I prefer pen and paper. um, and write down in bullet points or scatter them around the paper or whatever. What what's making you so agitated? What's making you so angry? What are the things contributing to this anger? Not getting what you want is something. You will have a goal, you can't reach it. Is it financial problems? Is it, what is it? Family problems, friend problems, mental health, just whatever it is, whatever comes to your mind that makes you unhappy, that bothers you, or write it all down. That's just like step one of that. And that's actually something I'll be talking about soon on my Instagram and IGTV. So I
Awesome.
will share that with you soon.
Awesome. Can't wait. And I think that this basic step of writing things down is very good advice. I've done it myself before. And as well, this simple act of, writing things down and then visualizing all of these different things is
Yes.
so powerful. And don't even, like, if we're getting too philosophical here, and like, somebody might be listening now, like, what are these guys saying? Just try to write down the tasks that you will do for a day, and then you will feel like I want to really achieve these things, and if you don't do them in one day, you can do them the next day. That really helped me
Yeah,
a lot, even when I was much younger. Just look at the different steps, and there's some
exactly.
satisfaction of crossing those things
Yes.
out and saying that
Also,
you've
write
done.
both logical and illogical ways to reach that goal. Both ways. There's
Mm.
obviously the reasonable ways, which are, like, okay, reasonable way, and there's the illogical way, which is like a fantasy way.
My second quote that I really liked from what you have on your Instagram, I had to do a bit of digging for this one, uh, was I really like this one because I always hear this one a lot. I hear this one a lot,
Okay.
and I would agree, or I would say to myself, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. So when you had it, I was like, yes, I think what she's saying here actually makes a lot of sense. So I love this quote. You said, don't take the advice, fake it till you make it. Rather face it till you make it. Um,
Yes.
I really love the way that you did this twist on it. And I mean, I never have said to somebody, like, as advice, fake it till you make it. Or um, when I hear it, I'm like, okay, fake it till you make it. But what does it mean?
Okay.
Like it makes, but really explain what you meant with face it till you make it. I understand that, and I'm very much about the hard work and stuff. But yeah, tell me your thoughts on it.
On fake it till you make it.
Yeah, but I mean
On
both
that.
if you want. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Fake it till you make it, I completely disagree. Why? By faking a smile, faking that you have something or possess something that you don't, is not like manifesting it or envisioning it before it happens. Those are two completely different things that a lot of people clash and mix and merge. They're completely different. Manifestation is one thing, okay? Faking it till you make it is something else completely. When you fake a smile, for starters, you are, some people say, oh, you just smile at yourself in the mirror, you'll just keep smiling, you'll be happy. It's deeper than that. You know, smiling does, and give positivity, but at the same time, if you're lying to yourself and lying to others, you are piling everything on top of each other and putting a smile on top of it. You're basically not being truthful to yourself. It's okay to not smile for a day or two, or if you're just so overwhelmed, it's it's fine. A lot of people have this viewpoint where you have to constantly be happy. You have to always be positive and happy. And yes, you can be both positive, but you can also be very, not negative, but very neutral. A person can be happy but neutral. You don't have to have this giant smile on your face. That's one of the things. Another thing is, why would you want to fake it? Let's say a lot of people would fake riches or things that they don't possess. Fake it till you make it. Okay, instead of wasting your time faking that you possess this amount of money or this bag or these pair of shoes or this car, instead of wasting time faking it, work hard to make it. Instead of let's say if you're the kind of person that wants to fake, which is a very common thing, fake being rich or wealthy or loaded. Okay, instead of buying these little cheap items to show what you have,
Yeah.
put that money on the side, start a side hustle, or just save them, do something with it, and with your time, reach that point of being what you pretend to be. And why would you want to lie to yourself as well and lie to others? Why would you want to have a whole charade just to post an Instagram picture? Then once you put the camera down,
Hmm.
you have the saddest feeling in your heart. Why would you, want to pretend? Playing pretend, khalas, we're not um, kids anymore to be playing dress up.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
a reality check. And as harsh as that sounds, this is a reality check. The only dressing up you can do is on Halloween and Christmas.
Okay. Nice. I like very specific on that. No, but look, your point is very clear, and a lot of it comes from wanting to really like feel good about what you achieved, and especially with the current environment that the social media has created, and
Oh,
the visage and the, you know, the behind the scenes and all that stuff,
yeah.
it really adds a lot to the pressure of, you know, you have to be successful. I've said this before on the show, and I say it again. Like, I am the first person that looks on Instagram and I start comparing and I start saying to myself, what if I did that? What if I did this? And if a day passes by and I have not done something, I feel that I haven't achieved, and I'm the first person to beat myself up on this matter. So
I feel like what you're
this.
doing though is self-analysis from what I just understood right now. It's completely fine to look at what a lot of people are doing and be like, if I did this or did that's totally healthy. That's actually really healthy and good to be, self-reflecting and analyzing yourself. If you're the kind of person be like, oh, I suck. This is terrible. They're better than me. I can't do this. That's, you know, comparing.
Mhm.
But I think what you're doing is healthy. It's not blackness. It's not negative at all.
Well, I would like to say that you are the first person to tell me that, and I think you're the first person to give me a new perspective. So,
I'm glad.
which is awesome. Because, you know, I mean, I just really agree with what you said. You know, face it till you make it, and just, you know, face the facts. You know, you're not gonna be, like you said at the beginning of the show, you're not gonna be successful from day one. Put your head down, do the work. And I think, you know, a lot of people say that, whether it's on other podcasts or they say it on social media, or you see like a clip somewhere, people say that kind of stuff. But really, at the beginning, you know, a lot of, you know, hard work that happens, and let's say especially the first 5 years of your career, 5 to 6 years. Put your head down, do the
It's tough.
work. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
tough,
it's
but really
tough.
it will get you somewhere. It will get you something somewhere. You will earn respect. And a lot of things nowadays, it just makes people, yani, they assume that respect will just come out of nowhere, and it's not
Yeah,
the case. It's not the case. You have to give respect to earn it, and it's very important. So um, I'm really glad that you put this point up and we got to speak about it. um, and I want to move on to, uh, you know, another topic which I think interests you here, and that's which we kind of touched on recently, is, well, you just mentioned a bit about it, is mental health. um,
yeah,
and you know, we've had discussions about it on the show. And frankly, we haven't spoken much about it. You seem to be like, now having spoken to you on the show, you seem to be like, this is something that you really like to discuss, and yet you
yes.
understand and you have different viewpoints of it. What interests you about, you know, mental health, and why do you think that it's maybe it's slowly not becoming taboo, for example, here in the region for us, but
Yeah.
what do you think is the taboo behind it?
Well, for starters, I'm definitely a mental health advocate. And I am someone who roots for mental health. Um, I feel like it's so important, it's recently not become a taboo in the Middle East. It was something shameful, as someone who struggled and is still struggling with mental health, and as someone who was in depression for a while, um, and is only recently getting myself out of it. It's something that really needs time, and a lot of people need to be aware of it. I'm always on my Instagram, haram my followers. I'm spamming them with more than 40 stories a day, posts, my viewpoints on certain things, not necessarily all positive and sunshine, but to bring awareness and to shed light on certain, topics that, that need to be seen. I think the taboo behind it comes from, you know how EM Zaman, and I'm going to speak solely for the Middle East because I can't speak on behalf of, the West. In the Middle East, it is it roots back from sucking it up basically. EM Zaman a long time ago. Um, do you not hear your stories from your grandmothers or grandfathers where Yi ana أيام جدي my in my past we used to plow the farms with our own, backs and without horses, and we used to never complain about it. Or we used to get beat up by our husbands or our wives, and we never used to speak about it. Or we used to be degraded in schools and beat on our hands, and behinds but never speak about it because it shows being strong. It all stems back, one of my favorite words, it all stems back to the root of the word being strong. The same way it's apparently strong if a man doesn't show his emotion, you know? And same for a woman. This applies to women as well. And they're
Yeah.
saying if you're strong, just don't, show any emotions. But to me and to a lot of people, it's weakness, you know? So I feel like we are now uh, being aware, and we're breaking the ancestral cycles basically that have been passed down from generation to generation. We are waking up and breaking ties with that toxic cycle of عيب or ما لازم نحكي فيها أو it's shameful, all of this. So I think it's really good to see people, wake up and realize that they have to unlearn the same way they have to learn, the same things in life.
I think this is an amazing um, explanation that you've given. Touching on all these points and just really packaging it in the way that you did is great. I think it goes both ways, yes, for men and women, to appear strong and just like suck it up and not talk about anything that's bothering you is obviously very bad. And it
Yes,
just builds and builds and builds. And you're right. I mean, especially with men, now you're seeing a lot of these men help sessions and people talking about that stuff. I
yes,
completely agree with it. I mean, even on one of our shows, I discussed about some of my pains openly, and I think it definitely would be great for people to set more examples or to start talking about not you don't have to share everything in your life. I think this is where
agreed.
the mistake is, but it's good to talk about it at a surface level, at least with maybe somebody that you can confide in, whether it's publicly, let's say on a show or a podcast like this, for example. You can only talk about the touch points, stuff like that, but then you might find somebody that you can speak to in your own time. And I think the way you broke it down, where it came from, an ancestral trait that it's passed
Yeah,
down.
and teaching
And
and
yeah,
tradition,
yeah, and I think
it
it's
comes
very
from,
important.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's very important to point that I think what we're saying here is not to not honor the type of traditions that we've gone through, but
أكيد لا.
just not to take everything at face value. And if you feel talking about
أكيد.
these things will help you, then you should. And I'm lucky that I'm surrounded by, for to touch on your point even more. I think maybe you are the same. I'm lucky to be surrounded by family who encourage speaking about pains or speaking about issues and being open and make the next step before we take this, discuss the next step
Yeah,
before taking it, not just bottle it up, as you said.
definitely. There is one thing I do want to say though, which I believe is the first mistake that people do. Uh, Talking about it isn't the first step. A lot of people mistake that for being the first
Mm.
step. Because for some people, they'll be like, oh, talking about it won't help. Of course it won't help. Why? The first step is acknowledging. That's
I was
another one
just
of my
gonna
favorite
say.
words. You have to acknowledge, everything first. If you're just gonna be talking to someone, you're just gonna complain and complain and complain and complain and complain. To make things easier, a person should try and develop a little bit of self-awareness to just see, to acknowledge, like, okay, I'm feeling XYZ emotion or ABC. Okay. You don't have to have an answer as to why you're feeling this way. Just acknowledge it. Oh, even if it's a positive emotion, it's so good to train your mind to be like, oh, okay, I'm happy right now. Not fast, full stop. You don't need to say why. If you're able to, if you've reached the point of being able to say why you're feeling happy, why you're feeling sad, that's great. Talking to yourself and acknowledging is the first step. Second step, if you feel like you're struggling to answer the why question, that's when perhaps you should tap into talking to a family member, a therapist. I definitely recommend a therapist. You don't need to let yourself reach a point of falling over the edge in order for someone to rush you to a mental hospital or a therapist. Don't let yourself reach that point. Therapy is for also happy people. It's very healthy.
Yeah,
So yeah.
awesome. Awesome. I think that's I, you're right. I think acceptance is the first step, and if you've reached that point where you feel like you're in despair, then it's already. Now I don't want to say too late, but I think don't allow yourself to reach that point. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. On to so, thank you for touching on those points about mental health. I think you broke it down very nicely. I want to move on to. I'm leaving music till the end. I'm leaving music till the end. I
All
I
right.
I, I wanna touch on a bit about the entrepreneurship side, since we talked about success, failure, self-realization, and I want to talk a bit about your Pebble gift shop, Pebble Art gift shop in Saudi. What was that like? To see yourself as someone who's an entrepreneur now, and what are the struggles that you faced? Like, what advice can you give to people about that point?
Well, it was a little challenging for starters because I started it in lockdown. So we were in lockdown for a good 4 months in Saudi, I think, or 3 months, not even 4 months. And I wasn't performing anymore. And I mean, okay, yes, I do have a lot of interests, but I wasn't motivated to do a lot of things. The one of the struggles I faced was Arabic. I can't read or write Arabic. So a lot of the customers text me in Arabic. And I wish they would, يا ريت إنه they send paragraphs. لا, they send sentence by sentence by sentence. So I, on the other side of the phone, am copying and pasting into Google Translate to understand, um, to understand their order or question. Now, when they send voice notes, أكيد بفهم أكتر. So sometimes I just tell them, can you please send me a voice note? I think that was just one of the biggest struggles. بالمرة, I can't read Arabic, by the way, للأسف.
I think it's funny
Uh,
because like you starting off a business, I think your main struggle is to find somebody who can, like a translator, where the others people are trying to, do marketing or do that kind of stuff. It's
أنا
very
لا لا,
interesting.
just I can't understand what you're saying. That's one of them. Another thing, I was in lockdown and I need packaging, stickers, bags, something. Now the lockdown, I started this in the end of the lockdown when in the last 2 months تقريبا where we had a curfew. So I was still able to go out and get
Hmm.
what I needed. But packaging was a big issue. I had to become creative. Plain bags from local gift shops that sell them in bulk with a marker, Sharpie marker, Pebble.sa. That's the most I could have done. Pebbles wrapped in, do you know that thing they used to wrap flowers?
Yeah, yeah, the
That
kind of
material?
plastic kind of
Not
plastic.
not plastic, the material one.
Okay, maybe if I see it.
Yes.
I'm not good at
Basically,
wrapping flowers. Yeah.
it's okay. Basically, had to go to places that get this material, wrap the stones up like a parcel as
Hmm.
uh, fast as I could in the bag. That was the packaging. It wasn't as professional as I hope it would be, but I gave myself the excuse, which a lot of people should when you're first starting out. It's okay. You're learning. You just started. If you're willing to pay for packaging from your own money to start the company as a straight off to boost the company from the start, great. If you're willing to play a little smart, wait till you get a couple of orders, then from that money, invest in packaging and stickers, blah, blah. Go ahead. Both ways work. So that was another thing that struggled with the language and the packaging. Um, Delivery in Saudi, uh, I, you know, I feel like abroad it would have been easier perhaps for shipping and all of that. Over here, I decided to market myself, and a lot of people go like if they want to order something, then they find out there's a high delivery charge fee. They'll be like, oh, never mind.
Hmm.
So what I did was I took advantage of the fact that, alhamdulillah, I have my driver here, and all the people that ordered so far are close by, so free delivery in Jeddah. If you are willing to pick it up, you're welcome to come pick it up as well. So I gave them that option. So paint, paint. We were in lockdown. We were in lockdown, and Saudi, specifically Saudi, ran out of paint for 4 months. My business is all about
It's all
paint.
about paint. Yeah. Yeah.
They completely ran out online and in stores. I was going crazy. So I had to make do with Sharpie markers that were waterproof and yeah, Sharpie markers that were waterproof and graffiti markers, which are paint markers. So I had to invest in those because we had no paint. So yeah,
I mean, I
that was
think
my
in
struggles
I mean, my
in the
mind,
beginning.
I would have imagined so many different types of struggles that you would have said, but honestly, this takes
Yeah.
the cake. Like you have some random crazy struggles, which I think
What did,
really.
be honest, what kind of struggles did you have in mind? Let's see.
No,
Let's see if
I think like I would have imagined maybe you would have some of the regular things that people would go through is like, the planning, how to.
pricing. Okay, pricing was a struggle for me at first because my pricing isn't based on the size of the stone. Okay, there's many sizes. I won't say them all now, but the basic ones are small, medium, large, extra large, which is around this big.
Wow.
Now, there is a price for each stone approximately, but they're natural stones from nature, so I can't really, uh, you know, no two look alike, as similar as they can be. So it's more of in the amount of hours I put into the work and the
Hmm.
detail. Like one stone that's this small could take 15 hours nonstop
Wow.
with just bathroom and food breaks. No, and I love it. It's meditation, especially because I'm not sure if you saw my most recent post on the Pebble page, which is like a giant stone.
Hmm.
It's meditation because it's dot by dot. It really helps you calm down and focus, you know. So pricing was I struggled at first, but I got the hang of it, you know.
I
So
think that's, I mean, like a lot of these things that you mentioned, I think it's a testament to how talented you are as a person that
thank you.
you're doing this plus, you have your music and I believe you're studying as well. I mean, there's all these different things that
Yes,
are happening at the same time. So I think it's very, you set a very great example for people and I've saved the best for last, which is music now. And, I want to touch on a few points, before we have the closing, a couple of closing questions. Um, so so you have an amazing voice. I've listened to a bit
thank
when the
you.
first time I saw your profile, and um, even now a bit, and I feel you fit more into the acoustic, like the wide variety of acoustic songs with guitar, or even like the oldies, that kind of stuff. um is that your intention? Are you willing to like expand your craft? Are you looking at like maybe more commercial songs, or is your voice versatile, or is there stuff that we haven't seen? I mean, just tell us a bit about that.
Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to to my music, like the covers I've done. When it comes to the songs I cover, for starters, the songs I sing aren't what I listen to. I'm a diehard rock, jazz, blues, heavy metal fan. Um,
Who would have thought?
and
Okay.
pop. Yeah, I can't sing what I listen to, unfortunately, but I do love old music. You know, 50s, 40s, 60s, like the before 2000s and 2000s, of course, with exceptions. Um, it's not on purpose, but it's just what calls to me. Unfortunately, I can't resonate or relate with commercial music. Um, it's not something I would want to tap into, honestly. Um, Even honestly, if asked for a performance somewhere, if they want commercial, then it's not for me, to be honest. It's not something I can really feel when I sing, and my voice doesn't suit it, especially because a lot of music nowadays is all autotune and effects, and it's really hard to be singing that music live, you know, like unplugged. So there's that. And the original music I write, I do have original music. um Inshallah, soon I have an
I,
album
I
coming
was
out.
gonna say,
Yeah,
we're waiting on that. We're waiting on that.
inshallah. And the music I write has nothing to do with what I listen to or cover as well. Perhaps yes, there are some inspirations. I can't name or pinpoint a few, when it comes to my originals, but for my covers, I do have inspirations such as Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, Christina Aguilera, a lot of oldies as well. So yes, hopefully I'll be releasing that soon.
Awesome. No, I think I don't want to dwell too much on those points, but I think the reason why I kind of asked a bit about the commercial side, or these things, is you do have the potential to be a very unique artist in your own right, but there is some, obviously there's some steps that you might not, I don't want to say necessarily get into the commercial side. You should, obviously look at becoming an independent artist with your own label, all that kind of stuff, and really showcasing your music to people in your own way. um,
I do tap into commercial, but before the year, let's say 2006, 17, 2015 and backwards, yes. But anything recent, and they're very, very selected songs like Sam Smith, perhaps, or John Legend. I do have slight commercial, but if we're talking 2000, end of 2017, 18, 19, 20, I know nothing, unfortunately. I, uh, it's just not for me.
no, I understand. I think you've kind of like, I would see you as, the kind of artist who would make an impact with like a unique sound in their own right, kind of like, and I don't want to sound maybe too commercial here, but kind of like Snow Allegra, or like okay, that Sade kind of, yeah. Well, see, you should probably check them out, but you'll have like their own, well, Sade. Tell
I'm
me,
so sorry.
you know Sade?
No,
Okay, you need to check them out then. You
I'm
check them.
so sorry. What genre of music?
It's like, it's a bit of soul, but also like Sade is
Okay,
kind of like soul. Snow is, she's more, it's a bit, I would say a bit commercial, but she has some very, interesting
okay.
types of takes. So check them out. Let's see, and you can tell me later if I got this right or wrong. I tend to like to see where artists go and stuff like that.
I'd like to.
Um,
I'll check them out.
you know, and my next question on this, before we go into the closing, is what is, given like, the, with the pandemic, the lockdown, all these kinds of things, you made a very big shift also to start your own business. What's the next thing, apart from, like you mentioned, the albums? What's the next thing people can expect from you musically? I'm talking about musically. Is it more performances? Are you gonna, just the album? Like what can we expect?
Uh, Musically, oh, the album, of course, is one of them. Um, I haven't gone very public with my guitar playing, as I'm still a beginner. But I do plan to come forward with performances, live performances with my guitar. Um, Also some instrumental originals. I love writing instrumental originals on guitar. So that can be expected when it comes to live performances. As for my Instagram, I do vow, and I vowed to myself to be more active when it comes to posting covers. I won't be uh, releasing my original music on like a little like a teaser on Instagram, but I won't be posting them as until they're fully like published and recorded properly. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I think that's great stuff. We want to see what's upcoming. So firstly, I want to say, Sarah, thank you so much for joining on the show. It's been an absolute awesome talk with you. I do have a few more questions about the show before we close this off. And my first question here on this point is, why did you accept to be on the show? That's my first question.
Okay. Well, for starters, I like the name a lot, and I want to ask you, is there a thing behind the name Nobody's Famous? That's the question I have for you before I tell you
Yeah,
mine.
yeah. I mean, me and Alex, well, he's my co-founder. When we came up with the name, we really didn't want to restrict the type of people we would have on the show, or even have, like kind of a notion that we need to only target people with a following, or people who are celebrities, or people who, you know, people listen to these types of, figures, or like, we didn't want people to feel intimidated by the this type of show, and also I wanted to expand the content as much as possible. Like we wanted to give ourselves the freedom to really, just have any type of person on the show. And I think a lot of it stems from the pure fact that I may have contacts, I can try to speak to people, but again, like, who am I to reach out to celebrities? So I needed to start from somewhere. I have to start from somewhere where I can try to get anyone and everyone, and really build on that, but also break down these barriers that people put up about fame, and like really ask the question that what is fame. Like our show is a bit of a
Yeah.
paradox also. It's like, I would say to people, the show's called Nobody's Famous, and some people's initial reaction would say, oh, so you won't get famous people. That's not the point. That's not the point.
Yeah.
It's the name is more of a statement rather than it signifying who the guests are, if that makes sense. It's nobody
Yeah.
is famous rather than, everyone on the show isn't famous. So I think it kind of started off a lot like this. And at the beginning, as you say, fake it till you make it, face it till you make it, all that kind of stuff. It kind of comes full circle here, because a lot of us, at the beginning were, me and Alex were working on explaining the concept to people and telling them so and so and so. And they look up and, in the sky, they go like, oh yeah, yeah, kind of makes sense. They don't give you that answer that you want. But now you start to see, 2 years on, things are coming into play, and people are asking questions, and using the name in a sentence, and saying, nobody's famous because everybody's famous. All this different type of,
Mm.
they're using them in sentences now, and it's starting to make sense, which I think is a testament to, the type of message that we're trying to deliver. So I think I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. And that's exactly why it clicked. It rang a bell in my head when I read it. I was like, oh, nobody's famous. I actually really like this, and I saw the different kind of people you've interviewed and spoke with before, and the music you've had people sing on your YouTube. And I think what you guys are doing is honestly amazing and great, and it's much needed because it breaks that uh, commercial or stereotypical social media construct of who is famous, what is famous, and how a lot of people seek these opportunities to be heard, and talk about things that they who they are, what they do, what they believe in, what they stand for, and who they etc. And they don't have a platform. So I feel like this really does shed some light and give people these opportunities that perhaps they'd be like, oh, I wish I could have done a podcast or been on a show with someone, but I'm not famous enough, or I'm not
Mhm.
known, I'm nobody. But I feel like um what you're doing here, you and Alex, really does help not define people, but help people realize and get rid of that imposter syndrome that we were just talking about, which is, and make them feel like, hey, no, you are someone. It's not like you're nobody, but nobody's famous. What is fame?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the kind of paradox we like to play on. So I'm glad that you touched on it. And uh, really, my last question to you before we kind of close this is, do you have any questions for me? And it can be, whether it's for me about the show, anything like that. So please, now's your
Yes,
chance.
thank you. So for starters, um what made you guys, when was the moment of realization where either you or Alex or both of you together at the same time went like, we need to do a podcast about God knows what?
It's I think it was a bunch of moments. People there is one defining moment at the end, but rather the story is very long. And I think this is it goes to show, like, people come and they ask that question, they say, where's that moment where you guys, or where's, that time when you guys said this is it. And it's so funny that for us it's a bunch of different moments, and really we only started discussing even a random different thing a year before we started. Like, me and Alex were in discussions about I wanted to, be like a streamer. Like, I wanted to game online and stream all of that on a Twitch account or all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And he was helping me kind of set up like a game room, and we rendered it, and it was amazing, and nothing ever happened. Like that was the first discussion that we had, and we knew each other before, but I know him as a very technical audio first type person, and that never happened. And it was just like one of those things where we discussed and we let it go. And then I think there was somebody who spoke to me again and saying, if you want to do something like a show or whatever, speak to Alex again, you'll be able to help you. And that's where he kind of came up with this concept, is like, why don't you do a podcast? Because he knew about my blog. I used to write about people. And he was like, okay, why don't you do the same thing and follow,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, kind of Joe Rogan style format? And why don't you do the same thing and just, do a podcast? And the thing is, when I heard the word podcast, I know what podcasts are. They're audio first, and I'm a very visual person, and
Yeah.
I don't like to, only listen to something. So then I was like, okay, on the condition that we're gonna do video as well, and we're like, okay, great. And again, it was just one of those things where you talk, you get excited, and it stayed there. It really just stayed there, only until I went to Lebanon, and it was my birthday. I remember that year, 2018. I was with my friend. We were sitting, kind of like very weird. Just with my friend, we were sitting like chatting in the lounge, and I see across from me, and this is where the music, why music is very much evident in the show, is I saw um, someone who used to be with me in university, and he plays music, and I said to myself, that's the type of person I want to get on my show. Somebody that
Mm-hmm.
he's still up and coming, he's really talented, and I saw a few posts from him throughout the years. I'm like, this guy, like, he's good, I mean, I never expected him to play music, and I just thought, it would be great to showcase him. So I hadn't seen him for like 10 years. I went up to
Wow.
him and I said, hey man, how are you? It's been a long time. Uh, just a bit of chit chat, and I told him, by the way, I have this idea of doing this show. It's called Nobody's Famous. I want to get people like you on it to talk about, to showcase them and let people know that you exist and you're talented and all that kind of stuff. And then his response simply was, what are you waiting for? And that was the moment, because when he said that, he was the last person to ever tell me that. And what ended up happening was, again, this excitement when you're traveling, and then before you come back home, you're like, I want to do this. When I get back, I'm going to do the diet. When I get back, I'm going to go to the gym. When I
Uh,
get back, I'm going to start this business. It was all that kind of stuff happening through my head. And I just sent a voice note to Alex, and I told him, listen, man, when we're back, khalas, we're going to start the show. We're going to do this. First guest, first show, all this type of stuff. And he didn't respond to me. He didn't respond to me. Few days later, he just sent me a video clip as a response to my voice note.
okay.
And it was a video clip where he recorded all the equipment that he had bought. He just bought everything. He bought like GoPros, mics, drapes,
Wow.
an audio mixer and all that stuff. And he was like, your move.
No
I
backing out now.
Yeah, he was like, your move. I called your bluff, and I called your bluff. I called your excitement. It's your move. So that's the answer to the question. That was the moment. And then after that, I just scrambled, as I did, to find the first guest, going through 7 people, just burning through 7 people trying to find somebody. Um, and yeah, I found the first guest, and we did the pilot episode. And after that, it was just a show a week. And we've been going strong ever since. That was, an amazing kind of moment for me, because I finally felt I was creating something that people can finally see, because my blog was not giving me that kind of the energy that I thought that was in me. So that was the moment.
That sounds amazing, honestly. It's great to see and hear that, what you envisioned, even though it wasn't, spoken about, then nothing happened. Just build up and finally happened. Um, I wanted to also ask, what was that question? Your first couple of episodes, were you nervous? And it's been around 2 years now, you said, since
Yeah.
yeah. since it started. So when it comes to your first couple of episodes, were you nervous? Where did you get your questions from? And from then till now, uh, what's changed when it comes to like how have you, you know, over time when it comes to the way you set it up, the questions you ask? Do you still feel nervous?
It's a
What?
great question, and I'll be honest with you, I still nervous even to this day. So even before your show, I am nervous. It's just I think there are shows where I can manage it. There are some shows where I say to myself, and I think it comes with maybe me thinking that I'm either not gonna be my best. It's a mix of different things, and it's like, am I gonna ask the right questions? But when we first started, it definitely was, I had a bit of nervousness in me, and it was just part of the whole process. And at the beginning, the first season, people who have been following us since then, I didn't write, I didn't prepare anything. There was just, I knew the guest. I had
Impromptu.
yeah, it was very impromptu, improvised, and really have anything to prepare. I just get the guest and we do some chats. And then, with season two, a bit of the changes happened where, discussions between us were like, prepare a few questions, do a bit of structure here and there. And I kind of reluctantly accepted that. And even till to, with season three now, working on doing that stuff, I get my questions through whether I might look at somebody and envision a question, or I might check a bit on their profile, social media, or stuff that have happened between me and them. It's a mix of different things. And I think a lot of the shows, if someone were interviewing me and asking me, how did this show happen, or how did this show happen, even your show, and I mentioned it at the beginning, every single one of them, there's a very interesting story behind each show. And I think it's worth having, a really like one podcast just talking about how all of those came together. And really, I still get nervous to this day, and there's a lot of changes and struggles that we've been through, whether it was inconsistency, or just posting because we had to post, doing shows, and um, not getting maybe the traction that we wanted. We've been through a lot of different things. And I'm happy to say that now we finally got to this point where it's season three, with a new brand, new identity, and
Yeah,
with amazing guests such as yourself, and all these different
thank
changes.
you very
And
much.
um yeah, I think I hope that answers your question. I think that we've really come a different way. And to answer your question, yes, I still get nervous till now. And every show is like the first time, almost. There's always something new, there's always a challenge. And I think that's great because it keeps you on your toes.
Definitely. That I'm really happy to like hear all that. I can't add on that. I do have one last question though.
Okay, shoot.
What can we expect from you next? The same question you asked me.
Awesome.
What's next for Nobody's Famous, and what's next for you as a person? Two
Okay,
separate
amazing,
things.
amazing. So what's next for us is there's obviously going to be reunion shows. And the reunion shows, when I say that, I mean I'll get people that I've had on the show already and put them with people that they either know that have been on the show, and just do one show with like three of the previous guests, and just see
Nice.
how that's going to happen, what kind of interactions. Or it might be two old guests with someone new, so people can expect reunion shows. People can expect more posts on on our accounts from so many different things, different content, interactions, all that kind of stuff. By the time this airs, it's probably going to be merchandise on the horizon. It's already in the works, so people are can expect merchandise very, very soon. So you can flaunt,
Nice.
Nobody's
Akid.
famous. Exactly. And really, I think the next big technical step, I would say, is just to get back doing some of our live shows, given that we've had to stop during the lockdown for the safety of everyone. So
You
I
mean
think,
face to face?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So just doing, I mean, yeah, when I say live, I meant face to face.
Physically, yeah.
Yeah, but also doing a live show is in the works. And I think that really depends on the type of guest that we're going to get, and possibly look at having more than one on that specific live show. And I
Would
think
you
that,
ever consider having a talk show? Like an actual talk show, like
Yeah, I think that is to answer maybe your second question, which is what is next for me as a person. I think the talk show would be great. Would be very nice way. In a way, the show is kind of like that already. It's just that we don't have um, a, a permanent setting. So it's a mix of things that where yes, I want to have a talk show. I want to put my voice over work more in the forefront for me as a person. Um, a lot of that is in the works. So that's kind of like what it is for me. What is next for me? Really,
Okay,
yeah.
I have one last question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Outside nobody's famous, who is Ali?
Oh my god. Do we even have time for that? It's just too much to talk about. My God, that's a very long question, long answer actually. Outside of nobody's famous. I mean, for those who have been following me for a while on the show and following us, will notice that I always try to add a bit of the personal touch to the shows and talk about myself a little bit, so they can know who I am as a person as well. And really for me. I'm a gamer, as I've mentioned many times. I work hard. I work in events. I do as much as I can to help others. I don't like to see people in struggling positions because I was there before. So I do my best, whether it's in podcasting, my personal work, or even my professional career. I try to always help others, and really as much I've very much. This big advocate of just hard work, and I love music, whether it's
Do
grassroots
you
or
play any instruments or sing?
I sing. I like to think that I sing, and I'm apparently a low baritone. So that's the voice that I've been told that I am, but I don't. It's not a. I wouldn't say it's a like a something that I do on a regular basis. I do sometimes try to sing with a friend. That's why music is very evident also on the podcast. Music is a special place for me on the show, and just in general, I think I'm very much ambitious. I like to always travel or find the next step, and that very much so is how I've lived my life. Whether I studied in Lebanon or I've studied in Spain, I always took those as checkpoints, like you did yourself with revamping
Yeah.
yourself on Instagram. Those are checkpoints in my life to remind me that these are new chapters, and I'm currently living the longest chapter in that process, before my next big step.
Well, I hope, as long as it is, I hope it's a beautiful one. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Sarah, I want to say that this has been a delightful and lighthearted show. I loved having this chat with you. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. Do you have any last words before I sign us off?
Yes, thank you very, very much, seriously, for giving us all, me and the future people you're going to interview and the past people, this safe space and open space to talk and freely discuss and be our own opinionated persons. It's a pleasure, Amjad, to be here, and I'm so glad we both like got in contact and we made this happen. You're an amazing person, and the show, I can see it, hopefully, inshallah, going so far, and I can't wait, to get that merchandise and wear a shirt of yours.
Yes, yes, hopefully. Thank you for the kind words, Sarah. It's been awesome interviewing you. You are so detailed and very specific about
Thank
what
you.
you say. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. This has been the Nobody's Famous podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Anghami, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, all the places where you can listen to a podcast. You can find us. You can watch us on YouTube. Make sure you check out Sarah Chafei, Chafei on Instagram. Check out her music, check out all her mental health talks, all the different stuff that she comes up with. It's an amazing thing to see you, and make sure you check out Pebble Art .sa. Am I getting that right? Um,
Yes, pebble.sa.
at pebble.sa.
Thank
Get
you.
something from her. Awesome designs. This has been the Nobody's Famous podcast, signing off.